All right, well, as you can see, we've got my silicon soldering mat, which means I'm in my basement, my little workbench area, and I haven't been down here in a while. At least nothing official for the channel. I've been doing some little projects here and there for myself, but the whole point of this setup here is because I want to take a look at this board here. And if you're not sure what this is, it is an XT class motherboard, more specifically one from an IBM 5150. Now this one is a 64K 256K revision, so it's a slightly later board than the initial launch was. And one of the reasons I want to take a look at this is because I realized that I haven't done anything for DOSCember yet, and it's almost over. So I want to, at least get something out there for that to celebrate that whole aspect of retro computing. And the other reason is because I want to see if any of this stuff even works. I picked up the 5150 a few years ago, and I really just let it sit and do nothing. I don't know why I have it upside down for you guys, but it's probably a little bit better. As you can see, one bank is populated. There's still two banks that have not been populated, and also the initial bank here that's soldered on. So I believe it currently has 128K. Which means we can add an additional 128K to give it 256 total. And then if I had an expansion card, 384K, I could get it up to its max of 640K with an asterisk. Now, I don't know much about this era of computing for PCs because I was just a child at the time and had barely started using an Apple II in school, let alone, anything IBM related. So this particular board itself is kind of dirty. I did give it a light dusting, but if we take a look here, this AMD chip here has got some dirt on it. And on top of that, there's also some corrosion. If we look at the math coprocessor socket, there's a little bit of green right there and some other color for some reason. And if we look at one of these RAM slots as well, too, there's a little bit of corrosion there. I take some still images and overlay them to get a little bit better idea what's going on. But otherwise, nothing seems to be damaged on this board physically. There doesn't seem to be any, at least as far as I'm aware, any blown caps or anything. So that's something we do need to discuss because this does have tantalums and not electrolytic capacitors. There's electrolytic fluid to leak everywhere. None of your typical electrolytics that are known to leak and cause problems everywhere. Also, this did not have a battery, which is also good because that means that didn't have a chance to leak either. However, tantalum capacitors are not without their fault either. They are known to pop, blow some smoke, spark, sometimes explode violently depending on, how old they are and how damaged they are and everything. On this particular revision of the board, as far as I understand, and again, all of my information comes from mine@0degrees.net. If you're not familiar with that site and you want to get into the IBM 5150, 5160, or similar XT era machines, I'd pay that site a visit, and I'll have a link below. But according to that site, on this revision of the board, again, the 64 to 256K version, the only capacitor I have to worry about is this one up here. And apparently, all it really does is filter the 12-volt line to the rest of the board here, and this is one that's known to fail. On the early revisions, just about all of the tantalums need to be replaced, especially the ones here near the power supply connector. I'm hoping that this is the only one that I replace, but I do have a whole set to replace them all if I need to, and I may do it anyway. They all should be the same. They're all 10 microfarad, 16 volt. Now, so what I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to go and take my multimeter and just do a quick short test on the 12 volt rail to see if there are any shorts. Starting with this one and working my way around, I want to really see if I should just replace them all now or if I just take care of this one first, and that's it. And in fact, according to the site, I can just remove this one altogether and the board should still work. Like I said, all it does is do some filtering. It doesn't actually do anything else. Now, the problem with removing any solder component on these boards is that IBM really built these boards well, and they have a very thick ground plane. And if you're not sure what that means, it basically means that it's going to act as a giant heat sink to any heat that's applied. And if you have a weak soldering iron, you may have a real hard time removing the any component, specifically the capacitors in this case, well, not, for the purposes of this exercise, and you run the risk of, damaging a trace, a through hole, via, things like that. My soldering station, I believe, is a 65 watt one. That's the one that I've been using for, forever, basically. It's the Yihua, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, IIHUA, the 862BD Plus. Now, whether that's an original or a clone or something, I can't say. But it's, for the most part, served me well. So that's what I've got. Again, I'm not a professional mod or professional repair person or anything, so I don't have like a fancy hackle or anything like that, because I'm just a hobbyist and I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars in equipment that I'm going to use a handful of times a year. So I'm hoping 65 watt is enough. If not, then we do have some options we can look at. So for the purposes of this exercise, there's probably 3 options we have with removal of the capacitor in the event that your soldering iron just isn't up to snuff. One is you can just get rid of it, like I said. This one specifically, the rest, if you have to replace them, you will have to replace them. But this one, you can just get rid of and ignore it. But let's say you want to replace it, you want to try to restore it to as close to original as possible. Well, one option is kind of cheating, but it does work, is if you just trim the capacitor, leaving the leads. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. Leaving just the leads sticking out, you can probably just solder a new tantalum onto those leads and it'll work just fine. Electrically, there's nothing wrong with that. It might be cheating, like I said, but if you don't have any other options, you don't have any other options. The second option is, of course, to get a stronger soldering iron, one that probably 85 watts or higher. But the third option that you can do is to preheat the area first, either using a hot air gun, something similar to what I've got here, or if you have like a preheating bed, a board preheater, something like that, you can heat the area up, and then that'll already saturate the area with heat, which should hopefully make it easier than to just desolder it. Your 35 watt iron that you bought at your local hardware store down the street is not going to cut it for something like this. So what I'll probably do, and I'll test it on this one here, since again it's not required to have it, is I'll just try to desolder it. And if it works fine, then, maybe I'll be able to get rid of the rest of them with my soldering iron. If not, then I'm going to go with the preheating option and just heat the area up with a hot air gun and go from there. Now, the other tricky thing about these is because of the fact that they have 3 leads on them instead of your typical 2, the outer 2 being negative and the center one being positive. And I believe that the reason IBM went with these is because of the fact it doesn't matter the orientation. As long as they're all lined up correctly, it doesn't matter if it's facing forward or away from you, it'll work fine. As like I said, the outer 2 are negative and the center is positive. Now, newer tantalum capacitors only have 2 leads on them, one positive, one negative, and usually they'll be marked, there'll be a little plus. I don't know if I can focus that closely, probably not, but there'll usually be a little bit of a plus right there, or you can look for the longer lead. Anyway, I'm just babbling at this point, and again, I'm not an expert, so everything that I'm regurgitating is what I've been able to retain from doing my research online on, like I said, -0 degrees on that, but also various other vintage computing forums like Vogons and VCF Forum and a few others. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and check for shorts first. I'm not going to do that on camera. Maybe I'll do one, just so you guys have something to look at, but I'm just going to do the rest off camera because I don't want to run the camera the entire time and it's going to get in my way and distract me and everything. So, now I haven't really had a chance to use this much. It's a combination oscilloscope and multimeter. I think I've got it in continuity mode, so it's beeping, doing its thing. Let's see. I'm not going to be able to get them both in frame, am I? Unless I do this. And well, I think this is as good as I'm going to get it. Let me see if I can get rid of that light there. So obviously the outer 2 are negative, so they should short out, but they should not short with the center pin. And they do not. So we may not have any shorts currently, but I don't want to... Oh, wait, was that it? Or... Nope. want to take any chances. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up there. And like I said, I still want to replace that one because it was specifically pointed out. So surprisingly, no shorts. I'm pretty surprised, honestly, and I'm kind of happy with that result, but doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit there and do my due diligence. Let me see. I'm just trying to see if there's any signs of any kind of rework or anything. I don't believe there is. I don't think any component on here was ever replaced. If anything, this might have been reworked. It's kind of hard to see, but the solder looks a little bit different than the rest, and I believe that's these dip switches here, but it's also possible those might have been soldered on by hand. So who knows? No, actually, if we take here, well, let's take a closer look here. There's some damage to the traces there. I don't know. I don't have proper lighting here. It's going to be difficult to get with the angle that I have to work with, but this is the switch here, and if we look, this particular trace has some solder on it. So I think this might have been actually worked on. If we look here, and here there's even more. So this switch may have been replaced at some point in the past. There's also another spot here where there was a little bit of solder on one of the traces. That looks like that's one of these 74 logic chips here. I believe this one. This is the 74 LS373. So it's possible that was replaced at some point in the past. When, I couldn't tell you. Like I said, I got this thing on eBay years ago, so I don't even remember what the listing said, and I'm pretty sure that the listing is no longer available. But yeah, this was reworked. I did not notice that before, so we'll have to pay special attention to that, make sure everything is there. But other than that, I don't see any other signs of rework or anything. So it's always possible the capacitors were replaced at some point in the past, and I just don't know it, but who knows? I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'm going to clean up some of the corrosion first here. In fact, I'll even replace I'll pull out the 8088 and at least give it some deoxit and everything. Not sure if I want to touch any of the ROMs here. Interestingly enough, all sockets except for this one are populated. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this corrosion, clean up this AMD P8259A chip, or is it a 8432 JMA? I'm not sure, but we'll pull the CPU out, I'll clean everything out, and go from there. In the event that I have to replace a socket, I have this style, well, a modern equivalent, so that shouldn't be an issue. I'm not sure about the coprocessor socket, though. I'll just start with some isopropyl alcohol, as is standard. Yeah, just some surface corrosion, so more than likely this probably was kept in a damp environment like a basement, an attic, a shed, garage, something like that. I don't see any corrosion down deep into the socket itself, so that's a good sign. And I'll put some deoxit in here too anyways. I may do a RAM upgrade. I do have them. I have some on hand that I bought for a C64 project that I've been working on and off for the past few years. I believe it's, if it's not 20, it might be 15, but we'll see. All right, let's get to the coprocessor socket, which I'm a little bit more concerned with just because, let's see if I get a better angle for you guys, because the corrosion's only really on one side. I don't know if I can get some good lighting on it or not. But you can kind of see it here. And these pins here are coated in something that's like a brownish substance. I don't want to say it's like cola or anything, but there's also kind of like a stain here that you can kind of see. Just interesting. I'm hoping that no one was drinking cola or coffee around here. We'll clean this out first. So it might be hard to tell, but it is definitely a lot better. I did end up using a little bit of vinegar to try and eat away at some of that corrosion. I still have to give it one more pass of cleaning because that brown gunk is there. I went to go clean the surrounding area. Not sure if you can see that, but I have literally no idea what that is. Looks more orange on camera than it is, but it's like a brownish substance, and it was a little bit over here even. So I definitely want to remove the CPU and see if there's anything under there, because That's not normal. So, but I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning here. We'll pop the CPU and check that socket. So it turns out I do have some 40-pin sockets, and I'm using one with one of these Kimtech wipes just to kind of get into there, soaked with some isopropyl alcohol to try and hopefully clean up some of that corrosion. And one of the pins, of course, popped up, but that's fine. I'm going to consider this a junk socket. But I wanted to get that in there just to soak up as much of that brown gunk as possible, because I even got a little bit over here. I'm not sure if it's visible, but I went and just kind of poked it in with a set of tweezers to try and clean it out, and like there's just brown gunk in there. I don't want to have to replace that socket again because of the whole ground plane situation, but if I have to, I have to. And it might be difficult to see, but there is some residue still on there, so I'm going to give it one more soak and see if I can't get the rest of it cleaned out, because I really don't want to leave it on there because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's corrosive or not. Well, cleaner than last time, so I think we're good. So, possibly a new technique for cleaning sockets out. But of course, this socket, I'm going to just consider it a lost cause because I don't trust it anymore, especially since these pins popped out. And then one more spritz cleaning just in case. There shouldn't be any lint or anything in there from the paper, but you never know. But I want to be certain. All right, let me find my chip puller and pop this 8088 out. I'm going to use this style of chip puller. It's a WEHA 26810 chip lifter. I don't know why it's got this little spinny thing here. I guess if you need to jostle it a little. Ooh, that's crunchy. I didn't want to grab the other chip puller because I don't know if it would fit anyway, and I don't want to run the risk of and then some of the neighbors are shooting fireworks off. Oh, these are in there. Holy crap. Pin straightener. Ow. Yeah, those are bent. That's my fault, too. Definitely will need a pin straightener now. But it looks like there might be some more of this gunk here. Yep, not quite a lot, but some. The pins look corroded though, so that's a good sign. That's going to give it a standard cleaning. Yeah, that was just surface amount there. All right, so that should be good to go. I'm going to put a little bit of Diagnosing in there. And in the math code processor slot too, just in case. All right, pins have been straightened as best as I can without a pin straightener at the moment, so but I'll go ahead and we'll reinsert it for now, just so I don't damage it any further. There. All right, so the CPU's back in. Now, that capacitor. Camera's about to die. Hopefully, it won't die while it's charging on me, but I went ahead and circled off the 3 legs that I'm going to need to apply some flex to and some fresh solder. I've got my fume extractor here, so it's going to get loud, unfortunately. Nothing I can do about that. I'll try to filter it during editing. Let me go ahead and see what I can do here. That's some good old 6040 leaded solder. Iron up to temperature. Yes, it is. I think I want to 3D print myself as a little solder spool holder. iron is currently set to 305 Celsius. Hoping that's going to be enough. Guess we'll find out. It's going to be tricky to get on camera. What I'm going to try to do is just heat up the legs and pull. There we are. Make sure I didn't do any damage to anything. Top side looks fine. Bottom side looks fine. Now, am I going to be able to clean that off or not? Because the next trick will be removing the solder here so I can clean up the through holes to be able to put a new one in. That one cleaned up nicely, as did that one. That one's going to be more stubborn, I believe. I don't know if I can get it through the other side. Nope, that did clean up. Alright. Yep, perfectly clean. I just have to go ahead and clean up the flux and everything and put the new one in. Alright, I think that's as clean as I'm going to get it. Let me go ahead and prep it with some fresh flux and a little bit too much, but that's fine. Not too concerned. And I'm going to spread the legs a little bit. That should be it. That should be it. It's there. Now, do I dare just fire it up and see if it works? No, because now we have to look at the power supply. Because the power supply probably hasn't been turned on in who knows how long. And I don't know if there's refuzz or wehuzz, I think, was the other type. So I wanted to test the cap, and it's coming up as 11.69 microfarads, so it's supposed to be a 10, but, you know, that's fine. VLOS 0.3%, ESR 0.70 ohms. So, but yeah, nice little memento there. Anyway, got the power supply out, and it's tall, so it's kind of hard to get into view here. But it is an IBM. There's the part number for IBM right there. 6447195. Fortunately, it is not one of the power supplies that are riveted together. So they got a little bit of rust there, but that's okay. Looks like it's all just screws and everything. Nice and shiny. But really hoping that there are no refuzz or anything like that, or any capacitor leakage for that matter, because I don't want to have to deal with any of that. And of course they're using just bolts here because they can't keep anything consistent. I'm not sure why there's different screws, or if these are supposed to be that way, or if someone's been in here before. Oh, two more that I missed. These are different yet. All things considered, relatively clean. Fuses seem intact. Fan isn't too terribly dirty. I don't see any refuzz or similar, so that's a good sign. This has not been turned on in forever, so I'm not worried about any risk of shock or anything, but if you recently powered yours on, be careful working inside. You might get zapped. it's not going to feel very good. But yeah, I don't see any at all. So the fuses look good. Let me test those real quick. Okay, all right, I'm gonna double check that. Yeah, we should be good. None of these seem like they've leaked at all. It doesn't mean that they're not good. They, always a chance that they've dried up or... Fan is detachable, which is nice. Yeah. Chance to actually clean it and everything. Panaflow, so Panasonic. Should be pretty decent. And as you can see, it just wobbling, it causes it to move a little bit, which means the bearings are probably still good. Yeah, I think we're good to go. I just have to blow this out, probably outdoors, although it's nighttime now. I don't want to do it. Maybe tomorrow. Got to wrap up today's recording anyway, because it's starting to get late and I'm getting hungry. A little bit of dust, but considering how old this machine is, it's not bad. But we'll give it a cleaning and, yeah, get this back together. And what we'll do is we'll test the voltages coming out of here so that we don't fry anything. Because if it's not giving out the proper voltages, then there is something that's got to be replaced in here, or several things. And yeah, so. But for today, I'm going to finish recording and get ready for some dinner. All right, so I went ahead and cleaned everything off camera. I don't know if you can see. I probably should have taken some more footage before I put it back together. But the blades are clean and everything. And surprisingly, the foam rubber gasket that's in between the fan and the chassis of the power supply is intact, so I'm leaving it. This power supply has definitely been taken apart before because I realized that there are a bunch of different sets of screws here, and two of them didn't even match. The one that used to be here that was rusted that I have here in vinegar that I wanted to get rid of the rust, and I did, but I realized it's going to turn the screw black, so I decided to just put some different screws in there all together. That way they match a little bit better. They fit. I may replace them all. I'm not sure. This one was definitely missing, and I went ahead and installed one. I'm going to put one there too, just to have it in there to keep it more secure. And but because of the fact someone was in here, I'm really hoping that they didn't mess with anything. It's going to be hard to say until I actually power everything on. But all right, so the next thing I want to do is test the power supply before I actually plug it in to the motherboard and do an initial power on self-test, because to make sure that this is actually providing the correct voltages. Power good. Next one is blank. Supposed to be 5 volt on an AT class power supply. Yellow was, 12 volt. And then you got negative 12 volt. 4 ground pins, all the black ones. You've got negative 5 for the white, and then the 3 reds are just 5 volts. So I have this dead hard drive, well, seemingly dead, I think. It's a SATA drive, but it does also have a Molex power connector on there, so that I can plug this in, because a lot of these older power supplies won't work properly, if at all, if there isn't something taking a load. So that's why I've got that. That's plugged in. There's that. Here's the dummy load. Get the multimeter in view here, although it's probably going to be reflecting some light, so I apologize. Everything's so darn shiny everywhere. So there's that, and it is set to DC voltage. Here goes nothing. Drive is spinning up, so that's good. Let's go ahead and do some quick voltage tests here. Get one in the ground, and we've got 12. Negative 12, and let's see if we've got 5, 5.5. It's a little high, but there isn't much of a load happening right now, so it should be okay. And negative. All right, cool. So the voltages are good, provided that this is accurate. Well, the only thing left to do is to test the motherboard and see if anything happens there. I didn't replace all the caps yet. I only replaced that one, so we may still see some, sparks and things like that, but I'm hoping not. I'm hoping everything should be fine. But I'll do an initial power on test with it, and then I'll decide if I want to test video or if I want to go ahead and replace the caps first and then go further with it. Haven't decided yet. All right, it's going to be difficult to try to get everything in view, so I'm not going to be able to But we'll see what I can do in terms of at least trying to get everything in view here. We know the power supply's off. Let's unplug it just to be safe. And then again, you got to remember, always black next to black when you plug in an X to your AT power supply. Otherwise, you're going to be replacing a lot of components. We probably will need a speaker though, so that's why I've got one here. And I raised the board up a little bit off the mat just in case there's any little bits of solder. I don't want anything to short out, even though the standoffs are still installed on this board for the most part. All right, let's see. Now there's probably going to be some beeps just because there's no keyboard connected. There's no video card. Let's find out. Fingers crossed. I heard the speaker initialize. Nothing's blown up. Cool. All right. You know what? Screw it. Let's test video next. It's going to be interesting to try to get some kind of a setup over here, as well as the fact that I do have a dilemma. Now, I do have the CGA card that came with it. I don't think this is an IBM original CGA card. Try looking up the part number and a bunch of different results come up. I did have to replace this tantalum already, and I did it a long time ago, actually, because I was getting started on this project and I kind of stopped. But I've got this ceramic capacitor here that's got a burn mark on it, probably from there. But I don't know the value or anything because it's not printed on there. I'll have to look it up and see. But I don't even know if I've got those available to replace, so I can't test this. And on top of that, it is CGA. I don't have a CGA monitor, nor do I have one of those fancy Necroware MCE to VGA adapters, although I have it on order, but it's going to take some time to get in here. So, how do I test video, you might be asking? And that is with the aid of this card here. Is an 8-bit VGA and CGA EGA card. It does work. I tested it on the NEC PC. It's the only way I could test it, really, without risking it in here. I'm pretty sure nothing on here is damaged. Everything worked for me when I tested it. It did work in Windows 3.1. I was able to get drivers installed. So let's go ahead and we'll hook this up to the Dell TV/monitor that I've got here in my workbench that you guys have seen many times on here. And we'll see if it works. All right, everything should be hooked up. Let's see what happens here. PC speaker clicked. Whoa, TV just woke up. Let me turn the volume down on that, because that's... And I do have a blinking cursor. And there's the errors. IBM Personal Computer Basic. Hey, it's booted. It works. Holy crap. Probably because there's no boot devices currently plugged in. Sorry for all the chaos. Let's see. I wish this stupid camera mount would, So there we go. It's working. Neat. So now what do I do with it? I guess what I should do is obviously power everything down. I'll replace all of the other capacitors. I'll do it off camera again because I don't want to bore everyone with that. You guys have seen capacitor replacements who knows how many times now, not just on this channel, but in general. So I'll get the other caps replaced off camera at some point. But this is intended to be a DOSCember video, and I probably should get DOS on here running somehow. But I don't know if the floppy disk drive works. It did come with a hard drive. Maybe that still works. It is an MFM drive, I'm pretty sure. Might be RLM, but I'm pretty sure it was MFM. But again, it's been years since I picked this up, so I don't remember what the description completely said. Let's go ahead and we'll power this down. Maybe I'll hook up the hard drive and see what happens next. All right, so we've got the disk controller card here. I've got the hard drive precariously just sitting here. Guess let's find out what happens. Let's go ahead and get a good view of the screen. Fingers crossed. Still don't have a keyboard plugged in. Not sure if it's supposed to sound like that, but 2055, 201, 301. I think 301's the keyboard error. What's the other error? Drive spins up, though, at least. Let's see. What is IBM 2055? Now, 1701. Alright, so 201 might be bad memory, so one of the chips might be bad. We'll have to worry about that. (2055-201) indicates dip switch settings are incorrect. So I'll have to look at those and see what we've got there. Due to a bug, 64-256K 5150 mainboard does not support any other configuration than all banks fully populated. So I don't know if they took the RAM out of here when they sold it. Hard to say. So I'll have to do a little bit more troubleshooting here. I'll be back. So the 1701 could be an issue with the drive or the controller or both, or maybe even just, I gotta double check all the cables and everything. The other possibility, the other possibility is because of the fact that there is no floppy disk drive hooked up, although I think that should show a 601, which I don't remember if it did or not. Error is not generated by the motherboard's post, but by the initialization code within the BIOS expansion ROM, presenting an XT-class hard disk controller. Maker of particular XT-class hard disk controller decide in which situations they have controllers display the 1701. And yeah, the 301 is keyboard because I don't have that plugged in. 201 is either failure of RAM, misconfigured switches, etc. So not quite sure. I'll have to do a little more troubleshooting. But let's go ahead. I'll power everything back down. And I'll check the dip switch settings to see what they're supposed to be set to. And see if we can't find RAM to populate these blank sockets here. Alright, no idea if I got the jumper set correctly or not. I hope I do, but if not, then we'll find out. So far, no errors. Hard drive's doing something. Still getting a 201 and 301 error, but again, the 301 is the keyboard. (201) is still the RAM, so it could be very well that I've got the bug and I have to have all the sockets populated. We'll see. Still want to see if this hard drive will boot. It won't. Which is unfortunate. But only one post beep this time. Alright, so furnace is on because it's cold out. And parity check 1. Interesting. So I got this because I ended up populating all the slots. But now I've got to figure out where the error is. Well, I've reseated all the RAM, checked all the dip switches, everything seems to be correct, so now I've got to sit here and test all the RAM. Fortunately, I've got one of these here, so we'll see what I can come up with. Alright, as you can see, we are back to basic, and it turns out I had 6 bad chips of RAM that I picked up, unfortunately, so I had to steal some from that C64 that I was working on. But we should be good now. 256K of RAM should be available to the system, provided I have everything set up correctly. I'm going to plug the hard drive back in, see if we can't get anything to boot off this hard drive. Here goes nothing. Hard drive is slowly spinning up. VGA BIOS. (301) keyboard, of course. No 201 error this time, which is good because that means no RAM issues. But I'm not seeing anything else happen. It's not trying. 1701, so there's that again. All right, so the issue is either the controller or the hard drive, because the hard drive's making some funky noises that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to blame that. But then again, the noises it's making could be normal. No idea. I did check the card multiple times. All the pins seem to be fine. All the connectors have been secured correctly. And since I don't have any other drives to test this with, I have no way of knowing if it's the card or not. So that's why I'm going to sit there and blame the drive. Which is a bummer, because it would have been really cool if I could have gotten that thing working. And the floppy drive, I don't know if it works. And even if the drive does work, I don't have any disks prepared or anything for it. So I can't boot DOS off of them either. So, dilemma. Unless I want to try this out. It's an ISA PicoMEM that basically takes a Pi Pico and allows you to do a bunch of neat things with it, such as add additional RAM to your XT system, or I suppose an AT system as well. And you can even do floppy and hard disk emulation via an SD card. So that's pretty cool. I have no idea how this works or if it works, but I guess it's something we can give a shot, right? All right, so I've got it installed and an SD card prepped, hopefully correctly. If not, we'll find out soon. Now, let's go ahead and power this on and see what happens. I know we'll still get a 301 error because I don't have the keyboard plugged in yet. Nope, there's PicoMEM. I don't have Wi-Fi configured, so that's fine. Oh, went straight to basic. Well, maybe I've got to do something yet. Let's see. So for the keyboard, I don't have a Model F keyboard or any XT compatible keyboard, but I do have this adapter here. It's an AT to XT adapter. And you plug in a PS2 keyboard, or I've got an adapter that'll convert, from an AT keyboard. And then this end, you're supposed to plug a cable into the motherboard so that you can use it. But they sent me a cable that's got 8 pins in it. If I can focus here, on both ends. So I've got to try to break off some of these pins in order to use this adapter. Otherwise, there's not much I'm going to be able to do with this thing here. All right, so I've got a keyboard hooked up. Hopefully it will work, but we'll see. Keyboard's getting power because the numlock key comes on. So far, no errors. There's PicoMEM. We won't configure this just yet. Okay, interesting. Let's turn fast boot back off. Got the disk set up, so it should just boot. This part seems to work fine. Unless we have to have a flop. And this image here was created specifically for PicoMEM. I got it from the wiki, so it should just work, right? I don't need to set anything else up. I mean, everything should be set, unless I have to have the floppy disk. All right, let's see here, disk. We'll start with 3.3 for now. Hey, look at that. We've got DOS. Cool. DOSCember has been saved from my channel. Woohoo! But why, I want to know, is the hard drive not booting? Let's see, F disk. I want to display partition information. Non-DOS. That's the one that I downloaded. It should, unless it's a corrupt image or something. Okay. Let's do this here. Not used DOS 3 at all, so I'm not completely familiar with all of the options. No space to create partition. Okay, so why can't I delete at all? Well, let's see what we've got here on the second disk. Nothing. So let's just create. And let's reboot. All right, floppy drive, here we go. Let's do this here. It will probably be the D drive, correct? Or not. Format complete. Will it transfer the system? Yes, it did. Now let's reboot. Go back here. We will select none. So a new disk. I still want to see if I can access that or not. Because it's a DOS 3.3 disk. Although it's showing up as 400 megs possibly. Maybe that's part of the problem. Boot from floppy or from basic, that's it. HD0 boot. Oh no, look at that. It did boot from the hard drive this time. Let's see what happens. Apparently I haven't been recording this entire time. I have no idea how much I captured and what I didn't. Managed to get it to finally boot from a hard drive image. Had to format it, and then I did a sys transfer, so it's running DOS 3.3, obviously the NEC version for some reason, but that's the image that I got. But I tried to boot off of a DOS 622 floppy image, and didn't like that very much. So we booted back off the hard drive image. Going to have to go ahead and, is there an edit on here? This probably won't run because it's DOS 3 and it's a DOS 6 version of edit. Yeah, shouldn't have done that. And now I can't reboot because the system's frozen. I have to do a future video where I mess around with PicoMEM a little bit more, but I just want to finish getting this all up and running so that I can complete this video for DOSCember. And yes, there will be future videos for the 5150 because I do have to clean up the case, figure out if I can get this hard drive working or not, maybe get another drive because I'd like to have a physical drive in here too just for the nostalgic purposes. Floppy disk drive maintenance, I'm probably going to have to replace the tantalums on there, do some cleaning. Maybe using this PicoMEM, I can sit there and get an image to an actual floppy disk, I should say, via the physical drive and go from there. Alternatively, I can try to connect the drive to my NEC PC and transfer it that way, but we'll see. All right, so we've got one last thing I want to do here. Old. There. There, DOS 622 running on an IBM 5150. There's memory available. 256 conventional, used 54K, that's for DOS, so I've got 202 available to me. So, yeah, I know maybe this is kind of an interesting video, maybe not. I mean, again, it's kind of like an intro for me, at the very least, of getting this 5150 working and configured correctly, troubleshooting some bad RAM. This, by the way, has been very invaluable especially for today. So if you don't have one of these, I'd recommend picking one up. That's what it is right there. It's 1-bit DRAM tester. This is the Rev 3. There might be a newer version of it. And this will not only test 4164s, but it can also do 4096s and 4116s. So the other thing I picked up with the PicoMEM is this. Allegedly, it's supposed to add sound card support, ad-lib, and I think they recently released CMS support, so creative music system support. So once I'm done with this whole project and finally have the case cleaned up and everything put together, we can probably test some DOS games and stuff like that and see what we can do. So if you guys have any tips, tricks, suggestions for this 5150, for the PicoMEM, anything related to this altogether, any suggestions on the hard drive and what I can do to try to get it working, go ahead and leave them down below. Otherwise, thanks all. I'll catch you later.